Well, welcome everyone. I'm Stephanie Miracle, and I work for the Federal Reserve Financial Services. And I am so pleased to welcome you to today's FedNow Service Town Hall. We have such an incredible session today that I think you're really going to be inspired and informed and all the great things. So let's talk about what's going on with our agenda today. We're excited to kick off the town hall. I'm hearing directly from PNC Bank, one of the largest banks participating in the FedNow service. We're going to learn about their instant payment strategy and what advice they have for other institutions considering coming into the network. Then we're going to talk to Eric Van Bramer and Blake McDaniel, my colleagues here at the Fed. We're going to talk about how the network has evolved, not only from a product perspective, but also what financial institutions are doing on the network. We'll also talk about what we can expect in the upcoming few months on the network from a roadmap perspective. And finally, we'll talk through some opportunities for you to engage with us one on one or at events. So we'll talk about our engagements that we have coming up in 2026. All right, before we get to all the good stuff, let's talk about some housekeeping. To optimize your audio and enhance your accessibility, you may wish to enable closed captioning for today's webinar. To toggle on closed captioning, simply select closed captions option in the bottom left of your viewing window, and you can activate that feature. And indeed, you could even set it to your preferred language if you like. Additionally, you can take a moment to locate the Q&A as well as polling panels at the bottom right of your viewing window. While we won't be answering your questions live during today's session, you can absolutely submit those questions in the Q&A session, and we will give you that feedback as we continue down. So throughout today's event, we'll want to hear from you. So we're going to ask a couple of poll questions, and we hope that you participate. Many of you know that my boss is watching, and he views your participation in our polls as a key indicator to how well things are going. So I hope you will participate in those polls. So if you have issues with your connection, sometimes technology can be that way. You can send an email to the SysFedNow community at chi.frb.org, and that's the email address you see there. Or you can simply scan that QR code, and we'll work with you to get that resolved. But you know what? No worries if it doesn't work out, because we always record these sessions and we'll be publishing them out on our frbservices.org site in the coming weeks. So stay tuned for that. Okay, now that we've got the business details worked out, let's jump into it. And kicking us off, we're going to listen in on a conversation that my colleague Dan Gonzalez, he's Vice President of Customer Relations at the Federal Reserve Financial Services. He had a chance to connect with Sarah Billings. She's the Executive Vice President and Group Manager responsible for global payments at PNC. Dan meets regularly with financial institutions across the United States and helping them with their instant payment strategies and adoption. So today, I'm super excited to share with you this conversation with Sarah. And I'm going to talk about what PNC thought about joining in instant payments and how instant payments has impacted their organization and their customers. So as we begin to share this recording, one thing you may want to do is to close out of other applications, and that'll conserve your bandwidth for the best viewing experience. All right, let's hear from them.
Good afternoon, everyone. And Sarah, welcome and thanks for joining me. Before we jump into our chat, I'd like to start with a brief overview of PNC, one of the largest diversified financial institutions in the United States. With roots going back to 1865, PNC provides retail banking, corporate and institutional banking, and asset management to individuals, institutions, and businesses of all sizes. PNC Treasury Management offers a platform of innovative end-to-end technologies and experienced teams to help clients architect and implement a cohesive cash management system for their businesses. Welcome, Sarah. It's great to have you with us today.
Thanks, Dan. Great to be here.
Sure. So, Sarah, in your role of head of global payments at PNC, can you tell me a little bit about how PNC rolled out its instant payment strategy?
Dan, our instant payment strategy was a deliberate and strategic move that stretches back probably a decade. So this is not a new thing for PNC. And what we really have done is reimagined payments as a whole. We haven't just added a new rail, but we've rethought the way that we go to market and the way that our clients use all of our payment services. And I think this is very important for banks that are thinking about instant payments or are already in the game. We embrace what we call a multi-payment strategy. We know that clients don't want to and possibly do not have the mind space to learn another or several new payment rails. So we have stepped back. We've really thought about our clients' needs and how speed and legal finality are helpful to running their business. And after we did that, everything really flowed. We were able to inject instant payment options into almost all of our services that we offer clients of all sizes, from large corporates who may use our APIs or connected payments, or our smaller clients who may be using instant payments in order to make real-time immediate payments within their commercial banking online experience. So we really try to meet our clients where they are.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I love the way you've integrated that into their experience, and really makes it seamless for them. So as we're thinking about those accounts or customers that are enabled to or that are enabled to leverage these instant payments, can you tell me what those customers look like, and maybe a little bit about what use cases are being leveraged?
Those clients look like the entire client base of PNC. And I think this is where PNC really differentiates ourselves in our payment strategy overall. We have not approached instant payments as I said before, a rail or a silo. We have embedded it throughout all of our payment capabilities. We actually have over 15,000 clients currently using instant payments. I think a lot of banks have some large clients using it or a smattering of clients using it. But again, by embracing our multi-payment strategy, we have taken the guesswork, we've taken the effort away from our clients, and we have offered services that just allow them to seamlessly use immediate payments such as FedNow or real-time payments or direct to debit card or Zelle or any of the other multiple instant payment offerings that we have. And let me tell you a little bit about how we did that. We, first of all, as I mentioned before, we do embed instant payments into our commercial offering. So when a commercial client needs to do payments, they can go online and choose a date, and based on their date, their payment will be made by best case rail to get it there on time and for the lowest cost. Similarly, if you're a more sophisticated client, you may want to use our intelligent routing capability. In our intelligent routing service, we take away the need to ping a directory or two or three and decide which rails are eligible for that payment. We really do a client-specific hierarchy that combines their needs for speed and legal finality, and we offer that to our clients in a seamless experience. So they can choose to have an instant payment rail, or if that instant payment rail is not accessible, we can do a wire or a same day or a next day ACH.
Yeah, so just keeping it really, really simple for your clients at the end of the day, and making it easy to use. Are there specific use cases that you're leveraging?
Yeah, and I'll just add on, I think it's really about breaking down the barriers, because if we make everyone need to understand the new payment rails and the new channels that can access the payment rails, such as APIs, then we are only going to have a certain percentage of the market adopt these new technologies. But if we do the work for them, such as creating the logic on our side to determine reachability and to determine best case routing, then it's very easy for the clients to adopt. We also think a lot about the way that the client has the data in their systems. So, for example, a lot of clients have their data in a Nacha format. They're sending Nacha files to all their banks. It's very mature and tried and true for them. We can take a Nacha file, and from that simple Nacha file, we can direct as many payments as possible to a real-time alternative. So that's the way we think about payments, and that's the way we offer them to a variety of our market segments.
No, that's excellent. So you talked about the new technologies, the new payment types that we have. What do you think the impact has been to your organization and your customers by having these new capabilities, new instant payment capabilities?
These instant payments capabilities have really been a game changer for PNC. It allows us to be extremely consultative with our clients. Again, we don't want their eyes to glaze over when we raise a new payment type. So instead, we shift to talking to them about their business needs. Do they have any emergency payments? Do they do exception type payments? How do they do those today? What are their pain points? What causes friction in their current environment? And I'll tell you, when I and my team talk to a lot of these clients initially, they're very hesitant to think that instant payments can do anything for them. But when you start talking about their business more, use cases emerge. And it's not always the huge use case that's going to pump tens of thousands of transactions through the system. Sometimes it's just those small exception cases which create a lot of hardship for the client, and they spend a lot of time on it, and we can just reimagine it, give them some instant payment choices, and they have really revolutionized the way that they run their business. One specific area that we do this is a service that we call e-payments. And this is really for business to consumer payments of all kinds. It could be insurance claims, it could be rebates, it could be exception payments. And we know that a lot of clients generally pay these exception remittances via check because they have the address of their consumer clients and not much else. So the big lift has always been to collect the right information to enable electronic disbursement. So our e-payment services is a way that they can securely interact with their clients. We send emails or text messages that are protected and secured to their clients, and we collect the payment information that's necessary for them to disperse via various instant payment modalities, as well as even offering that ability to do a check if they want to offer that, because again, we want to make it a one-stop shop for our client. And if they had to have one process for the electronic payments, even if we make it simple through e-payments, and then still support that check printing for a few laggards in their back office, that would still be a big challenge for them. So we put all the payment options out there that they choose to offer, and we completely control the experience in a secure way that I won't say only a bank can do, but that banks do quite well. And then the branding is entirely with our client, and the customer experience is very comfortable because they're dealing with the brand of their partner that they know, and they're dealing with the security that a bank can bring to the process.
Yeah, I love that you offer all those options to your clients. And, I know we always talk about checks are still out there, but there's still a valid form of payment. And if
Absolutely.
it's needed, it's got to be used. But, as you're having those conversations with your customer, customers, what has the response been from your customers to this new capability of instant payments? Because obviously that's a new capability that's only been around for a few years. Any unexpected feedback or stories that you might be able to share with the audience?
I think overall, as I said, initially, a lot of clients don't think that they need instant payments. But when you start talking about the specific use cases, emergency payroll, or different types of rebates, or or claim payments, then the wheels start to turn and you can really see it changing. I spoke to a client at AFP in 2024, and there was just a lot of resistance. And, the body language was like, I'm going to be polite and listen to her, but I don't think I need this. And then by AFP 2025 that just passed, she already was implementing it. So I think it's all about understanding their business, and again, not just one payment type, FedNow or real-time payments, but combining all of them into a solution that meets our clients' business needs.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think you're right. Sometimes you do have to have that little sit down with clients. We do it with financial institutions about the importance. And then once they see the value, then they're probably sitting there wondering, how do I get along without this in the past? So great stories there. So I know you just recently implemented the FedNow service and added to your current offerings. Can you tell me a little bit about why it was important for PNC to add FedNow to your offerings?
The difference for us, and why we ultimately chose to implement FedNow in addition to our other instant payment offerings, was when the US Treasury signaled its intention to pay disaster payments to individuals using the FedNow system. As a bank with a large retail franchise, we couldn't imagine not giving our retail clients access to those immediate funds when they needed it most. Obviously, another key consideration was the reachability to more financial institutions. Right now, we can cover almost 80% of US DDAs with the clearinghouse's real-time payments. But we want to approach 100%, obviously. And we see the Fed reaching more and more institutions. I don't think the job is done yet, but we are very hopeful that it will make a big difference.
Yeah, no, that's great. And your example of the FEMA payments certainly are a critical aspect of, being able to provide citizens funds when they need them as urgently as possible. So that's a great example.
And just proving out, sorry, Dan, proving out our decision, one of our 3 first payments on the first day we were live was a FEMA payment. So.
Oh, wow, that's excellent.
And I don't think it was staged, so it was just a good validation of both.
Yeah, no, that's a great example, because you just go live and these payments are trying to be made, and if people can't get through because they're not participating, then certainly those payments aren't able to go through instantly. So exciting to see that you got those on one of your first days live on the service. So as we start to think about wrapping up here, where do you see the most value in instant payments, and what advice would you give to participants and others thinking about ramping up their capabilities with instant payments?
I think we need to think about the use cases very broadly. This is not a one-trick pony service. And I know that we have done a lot of work in the earned wage access area and emergency payroll capabilities, but also we use instant payments for our mortgage and loan servicing payments. We use it a lot for insurance claim payments. We use it for merchant settlement. And then there are really unique use cases that, as I said, we just talk to our clients about their payments needs. We don't lead with instant payments. We lead with,
Of course,
what are you doing in your business? And one of those cases that I'll mention is a tree trimming service. And I'm sure that nobody thought about tree trimming payments when they built the FedNow or the RTP network. But this particular service provides tree trimming around electrical power lines during disasters. So, as they are contracting with local contractors in each affected area, these are new relationships. And one of the most important things for them to get them out and clearing those power lines as quickly as possible is offering an instant payment capability. So, again, talk to your clients about their business, and then the use cases for instant payments will emerge.
I was just gonna say that's great because you don't have to be a, Fortune 500 company to use these capabilities. You can be a small business, you can be a, tree trimming service, which
Yeah,
didn't know. That's a great use case.
we really run the gamut. And the other thing I've said before, that we embed the instant payments into all of our payment solutions. And one of those is just simply our wire transfer module on online banking. So if you think about the risk of instant payments, because they are legally final and they're real time, it very much mirrors the entitlement and securities that we put around wire transfers. So we have embedded, well, and I don't want to say an opt out, because really what we've done is we've opted all of our clients who have wire transfer capabilities, we've opted all of them into instant payments without any setup, without any request. What that ensures is that when they have an emergency need, such as funding a payroll that they may have forgotten, one of the holidays that isn't common, it's a bank holiday, but it's not common to all businesses. We've seen our clients do instant payments to fund their payroll, whereas perhaps in the past it would have been late. So,
And that never happens when people forget to fund their payroll.
yeah, I mean,
it probably happens more than we want to talk about.
yes, exactly. But there's really no barrier anymore, because 24/7 you can make that funding possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Sarah, it's been a pleasure chatting with you today. And of course, welcome to the FedNow family. I really appreciate you taking the time to share your experiences and expertise in instant payments. And I know other financial institutions are going to find this very helpful for them as they think about what they want to do with instant payments and how they can grow their offerings, and certainly with the FedNow service. So thank you again. Really appreciate the time.
Thank you, Dan.
Wasn't that inspiring? I tell you what, I learned so many different approaches, the way that they thought about their customer experience and how they talk about engaging with customers. When I talk to financial institutions, they'll often say, yeah, no, nobody's asking for it. But I think when you talk to them about, hey, where are those pain points with payments? Where have you had challenges? That's such a great place to go to really see opportunities for FedNow instant payments. So now we're interested in hearing where your institution is on your FedNow service journey. We'll give you some phases to choose from, but feel free to add any additional commentary in the Q&A panel. So let's go through some of these journeys together. I know many of you are listening today and you aren't yet live on the network. So perhaps you're just learning or just getting started and trying to figure out what makes sense for your organization. Or maybe you've heard that the Treasury is starting to do disbursements, such as those emergency disbursements. Maybe you are excited about the opportunities on instant payments and you're working on your business case or analyses of where you might find value. And if that's the case, don't hesitate to give us a call. You can reach out to your relationship manager, or we have a roundtable coming up. We can give you tailored analysis based on your own financial institution and what you might see coming through FedNow. Perhaps you're at the stage where you're assessing your organization's readiness for instant payments, or perhaps you've decided to adopt and you're working to come into the network. And many of you may be in our onboarding process, and I know a good percentage of you are already live on the network and indeed starting to send. perhaps you're looking for new opportunities to send on the network. So we'll give it another couple seconds here for the poll. I think it's very exciting to see how folks are doing on the network and coming in, and just so many great stories, just like what Sarah shared with us. We have a great group of financial institutions who have generously shared their wisdom about what makes the most sense to them. All right, we'll close the poll here in just a minute, and I'll give you a little bit of insights on what I see happening with poll results here. Bear with me for just a second. All right, so we'll close the poll, and it looks like many of you are, on your way into coming into FedNow. You're starting to dig into the journey and determining where the best value is for you. And of course, I see so many of you are live and already reaping the benefits of coming into FedNow. So thank you so much for participating in our poll today. All right. So many of you, as we talk in the marketplace, you're very curious about what's going on in the network and what you can expect to see coming up next year. And already, we are north of 1,500 financial institutions. That's in every state. You will find many financial institutions offering instant payments. So, but maybe just a quick step back to talk about what FedNow is. We're instant payments. That means that on average, these transactions clear and settle in about 3 seconds. So that's what we mean by instant. It is fast. And so this was developed by the Federal Reserve, and that allows eligible depository institutions, all of you, to join into this revolution in payments. So, financial institutions participating in the service, that's where businesses and individuals, and even you as a financial institution, can have real value by sending or receiving transactions. So it's a really exciting time, and instant payments are available around the clock every day. So there's lots of opportunities there. And so it's a great time to come into the network and really grow with the networking and learn new things. So I think it's a great time to be here and to get that experience on the network. All right. So now we're going to, now that I've grilled you, now I'm going to turn my questioning on to a couple of my colleagues. So we have Blake McDaniel and Eric Van Bramer to join us on a chat and hear what's in store for this year. Blake is an assistant vice president on the product management for FedNow Service. And in his role, he supports the product development and pricing for the FedNow Service. And as senior vice president and head of customer and industry relations, Eric is responsible for setting and implementing the strategy for managing relationships and financial services offerings for financial institutions across the Federal Reserve System. Thank you both for being here today.
Thank you, Stephanie.
All right. So, Blake, we will start with you. So, what new features have been added that have contributed to the momentum in both transaction volume and participant adoption on the FedNow service?
Yeah, thanks for having me today, and thanks for that question, Stephanie. You know, I I think we look at product development as sort of a way that we can solve customer problems. And so that's what we did in 2025 is we leaned in on places we could solve customer problems, specifically in the realm of safety, trust, and ease of use for the network. And so one of the accomplishments and features that we rolled out in 2025 that I'm very proud of is the increase in our credit transfer transaction limit. So we did that not once, but twice in 2025, and now we're currently at a $10 million transaction limit. We think that sets our customers up for success from an ease of use perspective because it addresses new use cases for them. It allows them to utilize FedNow for all their transactions up to $10 million now, whereas at the start of the year, they could only service transactions in the $500,000 range. With that said, I mentioned that safety and trust are also key components of the sort of customer problem statement and the holistic view that we look at when we're rolling features and functionality into market. And so along with that credit transfer limit increase, we also added account activity threshold controls to our network. And what does that mean? Well, that specifically for our customers means that they can, at a very granular level, control velocity and value for their customer base in ways that allow them to customize that for particular customer segments. We think that's incredibly helpful for them from a risk management standpoint and sort of fraud prevention standpoint as well. We have seen that some of our customers utilize those account activity thresholds to set limits for their customers that are responsive to their customers' business needs as well. And so maybe back to the interview we just watched, right? Your financial institution customers may not be knocking down your door for instant payments, but they certainly have use cases that could be served by it. And so we think those two things together add a package for our customers that kind of give a value proposition that's net new in 2025. And we're going to continue to look at those attributes as anchor stones for us as we roll out other features. To that end, some of the other features I think it's important to highlight that we rolled out in 2025 is incorporation of the scam classifier model into our fraud reporting. We think that helps our customers rationalize the fraud that they may see on the network. And by the way, that's relatively low at the moment, but we want to keep it that way, which is why we're rolling out controls like account activity thresholds. Additionally, when there's exceptions, we want our customers to have avenues to sort of address those needs. And so we incorporated FedNow and instant payments into the exception resolution service that the Federal Reserve offers to Federal Reserve Financial Services customers. And then the last one I'll mention for 2025, although I could go on for a while now, is that we rolled out APIs in 2025. And so we think that makes our service easier to use and so provides value to our customers and our customers' customers in terms of their accessibility to the FedNow network.
Thank you so much for that, Blake. I was listening to what Sarah was talking about, like that last minute payroll or making payroll connections. You kind of need a bigger limit for that in order to pre-fund payroll or take care of those last minute situations. But yet the velocity and cumulative value controls can help you manage your liquidity. Same thing for those APIs where you can run a query against your master account balance and stay on top of that from a system perspective. So I love how we're really being thoughtful and responsive to the marketplace and their demands to what they need in order to be successful. So Blake, maybe share a little bit about how do we stay close to the market? How do we know what to work on next?
Yeah, well, we do that in a number of different ways, Stephanie, and Eric can also speak to a number of those ways too. But some that I'll highlight for us is that we engage in a number of different industry workshops and work groups, including with the Faster Payments Council and others, to better understand where the market is moving and where those needs are. And so maybe back to my point that we try to be responsive to our customer problem statements and our customer needs as we roll out features, functionality, and otherwise evolve the network. We also have a FedNow user group that we sponsor that facilitates ongoing education. So that is a forum for us to communicate out about what's coming through our network, but also for us to get feedback from the broader network of participants that we have. And then another piece that I'll mention is that we engage customers on an individual basis as well, and that's existing or prospective customers. And we gather a lot of information about what their needs are, what their customers' needs are, and where those problem statements exist for them so that we can continue to evolve our product portfolio and our roadmap to continue to be responsive and deliver on that promise of safety, trust, and ease of use for the FedNow network.
I love that. I love how, shall I say, egalitarian we are in hearing from every financial institution and giving their voice an opportunity to kind of share what they need on the network. And I think many of the things that we deployed this year were direct feedback from financial institutions. We heard you loud and clear. And so we deployed new capabilities reflecting that and wanting to take those steps. For example, as we started building out FedNow, you told us that risk mitigation was top of mind. And so to that end, we brought the network out with fraud mitigation capabilities, and we continue to make those investments year over year. So really great. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Eric, go ahead. Eric, how has the network evolved from your perspective?
Yeah, thanks, Stephanie. So I would say, 2025 has been an incredibly exciting year for FedNow. We heard from Sarah just recently about PNC joining the network, but what I really love is that when we started and launched FedNow, one of the things I was really excited about was the diversity of participants. We had the largest financial institution in the country live on day one, but we also had lots and lots of community financial institutions. So fast forward to 2025, and we're continuing to see that trend. So 95% of our participants are community financial institutions, which we love to see. That's really one of the reasons we launched the FedNow service. But in addition to that, you're continuing to see the large financial institutions. So just recently, in addition to PNC, we've added Capital One, Citibank, and Comerica, just to name a few of those large financial institutions. And I think that diversity is one of the things that we really pride ourselves on, because we really did build the FedNow network for everyone. And so, again, right now we're sitting just around 1,600 financial institutions. So we are well on our way to ubiquity. We still have a ways to go, as Sarah mentioned, but we're really excited about the journey we're on. So, in addition to that adoption number and kind of the goal towards ubiquity, that we have a couple really interesting things that we've seen in the network in 2025 that I want to highlight. The first one is we're seeing an increase in activity on the weekends. So historically, we launched the network, it's 24 by 7 by 365, but historically in payments, ACH, we generally see a lot of those payments Monday through Friday. It's always been that way. But what we're starting to see is it bleeding into the weekends. And we're starting to see more and more activity over FedNow on the weekends, which was really, again, one of the reasons we designed it to be 24 by 7 by 365. We all know that the world does not stop Friday at 5 o'clock. Things continue, commerce continues, and we're really wanting to make sure we facilitate that. So we're excited to see that. And I think the other benefit, or the other thing I've seen in 2025 that is a little interesting, is the average dollar amount of these transactions is growing. And we're seeing, we talked about the thresholds going all the way up to $10 million. And obviously, a lot of us don't have use cases that require $10 million, but there are some large dollar use cases. And so when I go back to even before we launched, and I thought about how the FedNow network was going to be leveraged and how I spoke about it when I spoke in public, it was largely focused on that P2P, right? It was something we were familiar with. I could use the example even with my kids about, going out to dinner and splitting the bill with each other. And that resonated. People understood that. But what I really love is as we're starting to see the reality of the use cases come through, they're not ones I ever imagined. Sarah touched on some really good ones. Funding of payroll. Historically, I've been doing this a long time. And you remember when an ACH funding didn't go through for payroll, there was a crisis, right? There's wires involved. Even on the disbursement of the payroll, we'd hear these nightmare stories about checks being written and handed out. Just really not a good solution. So when you see things like payroll funding, you see things like auto loan funding, or these B2B transactions that are driving up that average dollar amount, it really excites me, because I think that the use cases we imagined are not just the use cases we're seeing. We're seeing all sorts of things that I'd never imagined. And I really like that. The one thing that I'm going to have to double click on what Sarah talked about. The most exciting thing for me, I think, in recent months with the FedNow network has been the launch of the U.S. Treasury. U.S. Treasury's been live with us from day one, but it was very limited in how they leveraged the solution. But really bringing FEMA payments, those disaster relief payments, onto the network recently, to me has just been a monumental milestone. right? It's not just about the volume that goes through the network when you start adding things like FEMA payments. Um, one, I'm never going to pray for more disasters, so I don't want to see more FEMA payments. But when they are going to happen, to know that we can get money into the hands of people who need it as quickly as possible. And one of the things that we've been able to see actually is, I'll take an example. We saw an area that was hit by a flood, and with a flood recovery, we could see those FEMA transactions going out, and we could see, one financial institution who's live on the network getting those payments, those transactions in seconds to their customers. And we could see a financial institution across the street who's not on the network, where those transactions were following traditional roles, probably ACH, and we could see those go through our system as well. So knowing right there that the use case and the value to the institution who had jumped into instant payments was really paying off, really kind of drove home to me, this is why we did it. This is bringing the value to the network, and this is really exciting to see those use cases come to fruition.
Yeah, that is so special to see that and making such a difference. One of the things that I was excited about to come to the Fed was to really make a difference in the lives of people and businesses and in a really meaningful way. So that was super exciting. Eric, you gave that example of your kids sending money for pizza last night. I thought for sure you were going to say sending them money for college. That seems to be the number one.
You know my youngest one well. There's always the ask. There's always the
There's
ask.
there's always you have to pay out the parking tickets before they can get their transcript, all the things, all the things.
All the
All
things.
right.
Yes.
Excellent. Yeah, lots going on the network this year and new and interesting use cases coming in and something from all corners of the network, right? We're not just seeing only the largest financial institutions sending, but actually seeing more and more institutions sending from across the network. I wonder what trends have we seen related to financial institutions sending on the network, and what are maybe some of those benefits of sending?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question, Stephanie. Because I do think, as we first started talking about FedNow with financial institutions and we started to see the traction of them joining the network, it was very common to see somebody joining as a receive only financial
Mhm.
institution, right? I think that there were a lot of things that financial institutions wanted to learn how it worked. I think there were questions about managing their liquidity over the weekend. And quite honestly, we heard a lot of people saying they were concerned about fraud. They were concerned about protecting their customers from the capability of send. And what we've seen this year is we're starting to see that diversification of those senders, right? It's no longer just concentrated with a couple of the largest financial institutions. We're seeing third-party service providers starting to roll out the capabilities to their customers. We're seeing more and more institutions right now. I believe it's approximately a third of our financial institutions live on the network are actually certified to start sending. And so seeing that diversification and seeing other financial institutions really starting to take advantage of and see the benefits of not just being on the network, but also being able to offer send to their customers has really been a great step that we're starting to see in 2025.
Mhm.
One of the reasons that we heard, I mentioned, is a lot of financial institutions talked about, well, we want to hear about, we're concerned about fraud. If I had one of those no longer on in the market pennies for every time that I heard a customer say, well, faster payments equals faster fraud. And I'm really proud to say that we're not seeing that in reality. We're not seeing that come to market. And that risk hasn't really been realized, largely because it's still a growing market. And so we understand that. But all of those tools that Blake talked about that we've been able to put into the system to stay ahead of that and ensure that fraud doesn't start to grow, I think has really been helpful in helping customers see the lack of or the reduced risk that we're ensuring that are there. And so when I think about it, the other thing I hear from a lot of our financial institutions is the growth in check fraud.
Mm.
And we know that FedNow is an excellent substitution for check writing. And we're starting to see that now with some of the small businesses, a lot of the consumers that were still writing checks, that actually, if we're able to move them away from paper checks and move them onto the FedNow network for those same payments and transactions, where we have a lot more fraud tools in place today, I'm actually hoping that faster payments equals lower fraud. And that's really a goal for us. And that's one of the things that we're trying to stay ahead of. And I think the other thing that's really helped these financial institutions get over that hurdle is also identifying a lot of these use cases that are very low risk. We talked about there's a continuum of send capabilities. And just because you launch send as a capability, it doesn't mean you have to offer it up for every possible use case or every one of your customers, but you can really tailor this how you want. And so we've seen a lot of financial institutions identifying what I consider those very low risk scenarios. Account to account payments, they're really large. This is me sending money from one of my financial institutions to another one of my financial institutions, maybe my brokerage account. Very low risk. I'm on both sides of the equation. We talked about payroll funding. We talked about earned wage access is a great one. Merchant payouts. These are very secure type of transactions that are immediately bringing value to these financial institutions that they can give to their customers. We're seeing opportunities for them to lower their costs. We're seeing opportunities for them to find efficiencies. I mean, I know we all love reconciling payments every day, but imagine you could take that whole piece of the equation out of the process and really focus on actually supporting your customers because you're not reconciling payments. We're seeing people generate increased loans because of this. They're offering up these loan payments or loan funding via instant payments and growing their loan portfolio. So we no longer have to think of this as just a sunk cost. There's opportunities to generate revenue. There's opportunities to save money, find efficiencies, grow your loan portfolios that are really safe and secure. And now I'm really excited that in 2025, we're seeing more and more financial institutions making that jump into send.
Mm. I love those use cases. And when I talk to financial institutions as they're coming into the network, one of the first places I encourage them to look at is what are they sending out, right? Perhaps they do account disbursements, and maybe that's a great spot to start sending instant payments, or the loan disbursements that you mentioned, or it's that time of year, so maybe bonuses or other things like that, maybe paying your own vendors. By starting within your financial institution, it gives your staff a chance to really see and learn and have that experience. And then opening it up to your account holders, then you're speaking from a great position of knowledge and understanding, and you can really help them identify those opportunities as well as plan your risk mitigation strategies and tools, your configurations that you need based on that sneak peek that you got by initiating those transactions yourself by your staff, your customer care teams, things like that. So a lot of opportunities there. Good, excellent. So Blake, let's talk about the FedNow roadmap. What challenges are we looking to tackle this coming year?
Yeah. So, Stephanie, to build on Eric's point about the evolving network, right? The landscape's changing quickly. And what isn't changing, though, is the needs of our customers to have a fast, secure, and flexible payment option available to them. And so we're going to continue to look at ways that we can execute on safety, ease of use, and confidence in the instant payment space. And so one of the things that I'm really excited about in terms of addressing customer problems, and also leveraging sort of our position as the intermediary in the payment space, is that we've gone down the path of launching a network intelligence pilot. And so we'll look at that network intelligence pilot to see, are we delivering value in those spaces, in safety, security, and ease of use for our customers, specifically in our role as the operator. We have unique insights into what receivers might look like, how many transactions might be flowing over the network to those accounts, at different sort of return rates and expectations associated with certain accounts. And so we're looking at ways that we can, make that data available to our customers to give them more confidence in the payments that they're making. I think that's going to be an incredible tool for our customers going into 2026, especially when it moves out of a pilot phase and is more generally available to the broader subset of our customers. And we'll continue to make progress on other things. So I mentioned APIs before as an accessibility component for our network. We're going to continue to build out the availability of APIs and the functionality that those APIs can facilitate. We're also gonna continue to make progress on the scam classifier model, and indeed that is going to be required to be used in the coming year as well. And so those are places where I think we can sort of ensure that our network is safer, more secure, and easier to use. I will also point out that we're looking at account validation and what we might be able to do in that space too. And so back to the network intelligence, right? There might be other ways to use that information and sort of ensure that participants on our network have more confidence in the payments they're making. And then the last thing I'll mention here is that we are looking to roll out enhanced reporting capabilities to participants to help them streamline their operations and make more data-driven decisions as they come into focus here. And as the use cases expand on our network and more folks are sending, that data is going to be incredibly critical for them to make informed business decisions for them and their participation in instant payments.
Mhm. Excellent. Okay, well, any final thoughts before I let you two go to wrap this up?
So, Stephanie, I'll lean in here with it's something that was said before, which is this is an incredibly exciting time to join instant payments. We are absolutely growing the network, and we are seeing new use cases come on by the day. To Eric's point, folks moving from receive only through the send path. I think we're seeing a lot more appetite for that earlier on in the process. And so, for the offerings out to customer bases, now is the time to get on instant payments.
Mm.
Yeah, Stephanie, I think the one thing I might close out with is, the other thing I hear besides faster payments, faster fraud that makes me cringe is my customers aren't asking for this. We hear that a lot from financial institutions. And I would really encourage you to move beyond that because, I don't know that historically your customers came in and asked for ACH capabilities, right? They're not asking for a rail. But what they're doing is they're presenting challenges that they have. And those challenges could be, what's the best way for them to make this seamless transaction. But I think if you ask those questions, like what are their business cases? How are they making payments? You'll find that a lot of them could benefit from instant payments. And we're seeing that these customers, if they're not asking you for something new, if they're not telling you what their challenges are, a lot of cases, they're finding that elsewhere. Maybe that's the financial institution across the street that's advertising some new way to make a payment, or it could be a fintech that they're learning to leverage to outside of the financial institution networks. And so I wouldn't sit on my customers aren't asking for it. I would probe into what kind of challenges they have. And I'm guessing we can help you find a solution leveraging instant payments.
Eric, thanks for that. One of the things that we do on the FedNow Client Specialist team is work with financial institutions with their specific data so that they can uncover where that hidden demand is. And if you wanted to do some front running of that yourself, some places that we look at are wallet activity. They're going there because they allow that flexibility of payments. But I'll tell you, survey after survey tells us that your account holders prefer to send their money through your financial institution. You are their trusted partner. So that is looking at that wallet activity could be eye popping, but it is definitely something to look at there. We also look at same day activity. Those are time sensitive payments and can demonstrate to you some demand for being able to make those time sensitive payments. But reach out to your relationship manager and ask them for some analyses, and we will pull that together for you and have a great tailored discussion with you based on your own data. So don't hesitate to reach out to us for that. Okay, well, thank you both. It was such a great conversation. I really enjoyed it. All right. So now that I'm done grilling my colleagues, we're back to you. And I really appreciate it if you would take just a moment here of your time to tell us where you are on your journey. About what time frame do you think that you'll be implementing instant payments? Do you think in the next year so you can take advantage of all of those deposits coming into accounts? Perhaps you want to take advantage of treasury and emerging use cases there. Perhaps you want to start sending or reducing your check fraud, and so you think, oh, maybe this is a good time for us to come into the network. So if you will go ahead and put in there, within the next year, maybe you're a little bit further out, or maybe you're just not sure. But if you're not sure, I would really encourage you to give us a shout and let's step through your own data so that you can see what the opportunities are. And for those of you who are already live, you are my people. Thank you so much for being on the network and really continuing to grow and expand your value that you see on the network. So we leave that poll up for just another um, minute or two to give you a chance to give your perspective on what kind of time frame you think that you'll join the network on. We always like to ask this and kind of prepare as we are bringing in. When you come into the network, um, it's a very fast process. We have an industry leading onboarding team, a world class team. You're going to have a dedicated onboarding manager who will work with you. They have been there, done that, got the T-shirt. They've worked with your service provider. They've worked with your scenarios, and so they can guide you through that process. There's only a handful of questions that you're going to ask from the or answer from the Fed, and then we can get you live. Now, on average, I would say folks stay in the onboarding process with us for about 4 weeks, give or take. But we have turned on folks in a matter of days, so it goes quite quickly. And it's really just about answering some basic questions. What do you want to do on the network? Do you want to receive? Do you want to send? And where do you want to settle your transactions in your master account or out of your correspondent, as well as how who do you want to connect in? Do you want to connect in yourself? Do you want to go through a service provider? So questions like that, really pretty straightforward. Okay, so I think we can go ahead and close it out. It looks like many of you are, you know what, you're in this to win it, and you're looking to come in even in the next year. So thank you for that. We're excited to have you and look forward to having you on the network. So today has been amazing. I think that wonderful conversation with PNC and how they and their customers have embraced instant payments. And you're interested in learning more about how organizations that are live on the network are leveraging FedNow service to add value for their customers. Check out our industry stories hub on frbservices.org. Now, I'll tell you, this is my favorite place to go because each one of these are like a little TED talk. They're about 20 minutes long, and they will give you answers like how did they communicate with their customers? What were their strategy? How's that panning out? What about liquidity management? How did they roll it out to their customers? And we have a great session where they specifically talked about fraud and their approach to risk mitigation. And that session, I'll tell you what, is probably our most popular one. So encourage you to take a look at that. To learn more about recent developments on the FedNow service, including recent transaction limit increase and details about new network intelligence APIs, head to FedNow Explorer to read a recent Q&A article with the Federal Reserve Financial Services Chief Payments Executive, Mark Gould. He's always a great resource to hear from. Additionally, we mentioned earlier to check out the details on the U.S. Treasury's announcement that has been added to the FedNow service for instant disbursement for federal agencies, including FEMA, as part of their digital payout program. And finally, be on the lookout for a new infographic that's going to be coming out soon that'll highlight some of the changes and ways that we have grown this year. So that's always a popular link. And for those of you who are looking to come into the network, you're not quite live yet, we invite you to attend a strategic virtual roundtable on lessons learned and opportunities to create value for your financial institution on Wednesday, January 21st. Participants from prior sessions have shared that they love hearing from peers and identifying multiple ways that they can create value using FedNow. And if you're already live on the service, but you want more information on supporting send capabilities, or maybe you want to expand your send capabilities, join us on January 28th to learn more about the benefits of sending transactions. And we're going to get real specific and talk about use cases and opportunities for you. So then lastly, we're on the road for some upcoming conferences, and we hope to see you soon. We're going to be at America's Credit Unions Government Affairs Conference in DC. We'll be at ICBA Live in San Diego. So if you plan to attend, be sure to stop by our booth and request one-on-one meetings with us through the FedNow Community Mailbox. and find out where else we'll be in 2026, scan the QR codes on the screen that you have. We're committed to providing you with the support you need when using our services, and your relationship manager will discuss your organization's business needs and use cases for instant payments. And we're happy to help you explore these ideas and provide you with lessons learned. So don't hesitate to connect with your relationship manager, and you can find out who that is by clicking on the link there, or you can send us a note to systemfednowcommunity@chi.frb.org. Following today's webinar, we'll be sending you a short survey. I swear it's short, that we'd love for you to fill out and tell us what you really think, and what else you might like to see on these sessions. And finally, we have recorded this and we will post it live. So thank you so much for joining us today. It's been our pleasure to spend time with you, and look forward to working with you on the network.